Another strategy to graph from intercept form is by working with the a value and working backwards. So first thing with intercept form, which we know we're in because we have two parentheses, neither of them are being squared, we're going to find and graph the x-intercepts, which these x-intercepts would have to be 1, 0, and -3, 0. So we can start by graphing that. And now we can find the axis of symmetry, which is halfway between the two x-intercepts, which is going to be at -1. And now at this time we can work backwards with our a value. So a is going to be right in front of the first set of parentheses. If there's nothing there, there's an invisible 1. So I know that a is 1. So I know my 1a would be 1, 3a is 3, 5a is 5. So one strategy you could do would be to plug in for the vertex, which is what I did in the last video. In this one, you can actually use this growth rate and work backwards. I'm going to abbreviate axis of symmetry with AOS. So you're going to count how many spaces are between the axis of symmetry and one of the x-intercepts. So we have 2 spaces in between there. Because I have 2 spaces, we're just going to work backwards through the growth rate. So if we have 1 space, that was 1a. Like each of those movements from the axis of symmetry represents one of our movements. So 1 space from the axis of symmetry is a vertical movement of 1a. If I do another space, then I would have to do 1a and 3a. If it was 3 spaces, then I'd be doing 1a, 3a, 5a. And I could keep that going just for how many spaces there are. So if I have 2 spaces, what I need to worry about is these 2 movements, specifically the 1 and the 3. Now, we have to look at the direction of opening. So my a value is a positive number, which means that this parabola opens up. That means to get to the vertex, I actually need to move down from the x-intercept. So from one of my x-intercepts, I'm going to work backwards through this. So I'm going to start by going down 3 over 1. And that's going to be a point. And then I go down 1 over 1. And that's my other point. That's my vertex. I do the same on the other side where I go down 3 over 1 and then down 1 over 1. And that's actually the shape of my parabola. We're going to do another example. We're going to do 2 more actually. So for this one, my x-intercepts are 0, 0, and 4, 0. My a value is negative out front, which makes it a -1. So 1a is -1, 3a is -3, 5a is -5. I'm going to start by plotting the x-intercepts. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes my axis of symmetry at 2. Right, I notice there are 2 spaces which means I need to use the first two vertical movements, so 1A and 3A. Because my A is negative, I know this is going to open down, so I need to work backwards. And to have my vertex, to have my parabola open down, my vertex needs to be above my x-intercepts. So once again, I'm just working backwards through this. So I'm going to start by going up 3 and then over 1. That would give me a point. And then I go up 1 over 1. And that's my vertex. Do the same thing on the other side, up 3 over 1. And if I wanted to keep going past these points, then I can just, from these points, go over 1, down 5. 1, 2, 3. And that continues that pattern. Now, this will change if my A value, like in this instance, my A value is 2. So I know my 1A is going to be 2. My 3A is going to be 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. 5A is going to be 10. I actually decided I want to do this one. My A value is -3, so I know this will open down. 1A is -3. Oops. 3A is -9. 5A is -15. All right, my x-intercepts looks like we have -1 and +1. My axis of symmetry is the y-axis here at x equals 0. So that tells me, because there's only one space in between the axis of symmetry and that point, I only need to do this first movement. So I'm going to move backwards. So for this to open down, the vertex needs to be above my x-intercepts. So I'm going to go up 3 and then over 1. And then I continue, because that was my vertex, I can just go from the vertex over 1 down 3, which gets me to that x-intercept, and then over 1 down 9, which just puts me right off the graph here. I can do that on both sides. So you can choose if you want to work backwards through the growth rate like this video is about, or if you'd rather just use the equation to plug in your axis of symmetry and find the vertex. Either one's great.